Welcome. My name is Sandra Palomo, Implementation Specialist. I recognize a lot of you, but for those of you who don't know me, I've been working with Code Metro for 4 years, and prior to coming on board, I worked for a local ABA agency. I was there for 10 years. Therefore, I'm very familiar with the day-to-day process. We're going to kick off the webinar with an audio recording from Kim Finger.
Hello, and thank you for attending the first in our every 2-month webinar series. My name's Kim Finger, and I'm the CEO of Code Metro. I apologize that I can't be with you live today, but I did want to send off a recording and kick off the webinar series. This is something we've wanted to do for quite a while, and as I said, our goal is to do this every other month. Today's webinar is going to be specifically on our Scheduling Genie and our Scheduling Matrix, which are recent features that we've developed in the NPA Works software. Our goal, though, is to cover all sorts of different topics over the course of the webinars that cover features and ongoing training that you need. So please feel free during or after the webinar to email us with topics that you'd like us to cover in the future. So before I pass over the baton to Elsie and Sandra, who are going to be describing the features and training you on the Genie and the Matrix and answering any questions that you might have, I wanted to just spend a minute and tell you a little bit about why we developed the Scheduling Genie. I hope because you're attending today that we've piqued your interest or that you're using the Genie and just need some additional information in order to be sure that you're using it to its fullest potential. For those of you who may not be aware of this, I used to be the COO at Autism Spectrum Therapies. And when I was there, I would literally want to pull my hair out when I would see how every Friday my BCBAs were spending their day planning schedules that dollars to donuts on Monday morning, those schedules, half of them would fly out the window due to cancellation. So there was so much time being spent by BCBAs whose goal was to work with children and individuals with disabilities and not, frankly, spend their time doing scheduling, that I probed to ask why it was that our large team of schedulers couldn't do what they were doing. And the feedback I got consistently across every office was, we know things about the family that the schedulers just don't know. And these bits of information that we have are critical to aligning the right staff with the right client, be it for initial scheduling or for finding a substitute or replacing a staff member who's leaving the organization. So basically at that point in time, I sat down and spent quite a bit of time with my clinical directors and got from them the information such as, this child needs someone to work with them who has experience with challenging behaviors. Or this mom, frankly, is challenging to work with and needs a therapist who can work with a challenging parent. Or this child elopes and needs somebody who's going to be capable of running at a quick pace in an unsafe situation, and so on and so forth. So when I came to Code Metro, having had several years of experience on the operations side, one of the features I absolutely wanted Code Metro to develop was a means for NPA Works to track information that otherwise is not tracked in any software and is only accessible through communication from a BCBA to a scheduler, which, as we know, takes a lot of time. So Elsie and Sandra are going to walk you through today how to best utilize the Genie. But the feedback we've gotten from those using it is achieving the goal. I think they're going to describe for you some additional features, phasing of that feature that will be coming. But I do think you will appreciate it. And some other suggestions quickly that I have around it relate to how best to incorporate it into your day-to-day business operations. So for example, you interview, you hire a new therapist. How do you go about categorizing their attributes when you have yet to see them in the field? So obviously you can set some of the initial attributes based on their resume, But I'd strongly recommend, and for those that are using it, they're tying it to their competency reviews. Because obviously people gain experience working with you, and even though they may not initially have experience with challenging behaviors, they will have experience possibly over time, in which case you can switch on that attribute as one of the attributes that they have. This will allow you now to do best matches. Likewise, on the client side, you may not have all the initial information that you need when you onboard a client. Hopefully you can get quite a bit of information through your intake forms. But again, having your clinical staff trained and regularly using the Genie and updating it is going to be a key to success for the system to continually provide for you best matches. So that's just a little takeaway. At this point, I hope you enjoy the webinar. I hope you get a lot out of it today. We look forward to continuing to share with you additional information in the future about new features coming. And thank you for your patronage.
Thanks, Kim. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please type them in to the chat section of the Zoom meeting. We will stop to answer your questions after each section. So I'm going to get started with the Scheduling Genie. So first, let's talk about what is the Genie. So this feature will assist with your scheduling process. It allows for you to find the best matching staff for a client. The Genie is also helpful in finding subs. There are three portions to the Scheduling Genie. We are going to create attributes, we're going to assign them to staff members, and then we are ready to use the Genie to find a match. The Scheduling Genie uses two criteria to match clients as staff: attributes and availabilities. Let's start off with availabilities. Availabilities are used in the schedules of clients and staff to see when a client and a staff are available. So let's open up a schedule and let's enter some availabilities. Availabilities are going to work exactly the same way in both the client and a staff schedule. So here we have a schedule that's open. Below the mini calendar, there are three icons. These icons right over here will help you add, edit, and delete an appointment. The next three icons are for availabilities. To enter an availability, there are two ways of doing that. You can either click on Create a New Availability button, and the staff availability window will open up, or you can highlight the time of the availability that you're trying to enter and then click on the Create a New Availability icon. The window will open up. The difference between highlighting and not highlighting the time is if you highlight the time, you don't have to enter the start time and the end time of your availability. Otherwise, you would have to come right over here and either use the arrows to move up and down or type over the time and the hour of the availability that you wish to enter. You can see that with this availability, I'm actually entering 5 occurrences at the same time. I then simply click on OK. I click OK one more time, and you'll notice that the availability has been entered. Now, an availability is going to show you, it's going to be shaded in dark blue, and it's going to show me that this particular staff member is available to work at this particular time. The Scheduling Genie is going to be looking for these availabilities in order to match a client and a staff. So the minimum requirement to use the Scheduling Genie is to enter availabilities. Now, we're going to go ahead and move forward with attributes. Let's go over to the Edit drop-down menu. In the Edit drop-down menu, we're going to scroll down to the Scheduling Genie attributes. I'm going to click on this button, and the attribute window is going to open up. So oftentimes, your clinical team is going to have information about the client that is not available to the scheduler. The attributes bridges the two departments together to assist in finding the best match for your client. We recommend that the clinical team and the schedulers work together to come up with the list of attributes. We look for attributes to complete the following sentence. Some clients need staff that, and I've entered some examples here for you. So some of the examples are can lift more than 30 pounds, can run after an eloping child, is okay with animals, has experience with aggressive behaviors, and can work in North LA. From here, you may edit the attributes at any time. So keep in mind that when you open your attribute list, you're not going to have any in there, okay? You're going to get to decide what those attributes are, and you will be able to enter them yourself. So let's edit an attribute that we already have. To edit, we're going to go to the pencil. We're going to click on it. It's going to let us know that any changes that we make in this screen are going to affect anywhere where the attribute has already been used. So if I've already used this attribute on a client or a staff schedule, whatever changes I make here, you're going to see throughout the site. So let's just edit this attribute now. So I'm going to change this from 30 pounds to 25 pounds. And I'm going to save it. Before I save, I'm going to enter a new attribute. To enter a new attribute, I'm going to click on the plus sign. A new line is going to appear, and I'm going to go to the drop-down menu, and I'm going to choose from these options. So here, I'm going to enter a new attribute. So an attribute that I can enter here is going to be can work with difficult families. I'm going to select can, and I'm simply going to type in can work with difficult families. Here, I'm going to put in a short name. Once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save my attribute. Now that we have attributes entered into the system, I am now ready to attach them to staff and also clients. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the name of the staff member that I'm going to use. I'm going to highlight their names, and then I'm going to click on Open Scheduling Genie icon. The staff attributes are going to open up. From this window, you'll be able to see the name of the staff member you're working with. You're also going to be able to update the availability. Clicking on this window will open up this staff member schedule, which will then allow me to update the availability. Notice that the first two attributes that are here in the staff record are speaks primarily and also speaks. These attributes are already entered into the system. It is not necessary for you to enter these two attributes as they will already be there. But from here, we're basically going to go through the different attributes, and we're going to tell the system which of these attributes are met by this staff member. So if this staff member can run after an eloping child, I'm simply going to turn that attribute on. This particular staff member has allergies to animals, so I'm not going to turn that one on, but I will turn on the rest. Any new attributes that have been entered are going to have this new flag in front of them. That's going to let you know that this attribute is new in the system. So let's go ahead and turn that one on. When you are done, we can go ahead and we can save the list of attributes. Now we're ready to go to a client. So I'm going to go to my client. I'm going to select the name of the client I want to work with, and I'm going to click on Open Scheduling Genie. Here, I'm going to see, again, the name of the person that I'm working with. I'm going to see the name of the person that I'm working with. So here's the client that I'm working with. And right up here, I have the Update Availability button. Again, clicking on this button is going to open up this client schedule, and it'll allow me to edit the availabilities. In this window, we've got our list of attributes. To see the attributes for the client, simply click on the plus sign and the attributes will be expanded. So this particular client already has their attributes set. Notice that this one, the very first attribute in the client is going to be gender. Gender is another attribute that we have in the system that it's not necessary for you to enter. This will already be entered into the client's attribute list. Now, you'll notice that the attributes work very similar to the attributes in the staff records. To turn an attribute on, you'd simply come right over here and turn the attribute on. So this is something that the client needs. This client is telling us that they prefer staff who can lift more than 25 pounds, can run after an eloping child. If we know that this particular client needs a staff member who is a female staff member, then we're going to click on the required box. Clicking on the required box means that when you get your results for staff who are available, the system will only give you staff members who absolutely meet this particular attribute, okay? Otherwise, if we leave it unselected, it means that it's just a preference. Below that, we are almost ready to find a matching staff. I'm going to expand the Find Matching Staff window. Here, I'm going to see the service that is entered. I'm going to click on this drop-down menu. From this drop-down menu, you get to see the different list of services that are entered in the Client's Services tab. If you're trying to find somebody and they're not, or if you're trying to find a service that's not listed here, that means that this particular service has not been entered into the client's record. So I'm going to select the very first one, which is the one that I'm trying to schedule. We then move on to miles. So miles, currently the system calculates mileage in a straight line. The distance is calculated from the staff home address to the client's default service location. If you find that the miles field is grayed out, this means that the client does not have a default service location set up in their client record. That can be found under the contract tab. We then move on to the date range. So the date that is going to be defaulted here is going to be today's date, so the date that you're doing the search for. Then the end date is going to be the end date for the service that we are trying to schedule. To change this date, simply click on the calendar. To go to a different month, you can click on the month, select the month that you're looking for, and select the date that you're trying to look for. So right now, I am looking for staff between the 24th of April to the 30th of April. If you've recently hired new staff and you have staff members entered into the system who are either inactive or they have incomplete credentials or they have expired credentials and you want to include them into the search, you're going to turn these on and you will do a search to include all the inactive staff. Now we are ready to see our results. So I'm going to click on search. The Genie is going to look for the best possible match, and right underneath, we're going to see the results displayed. You're going to see the name of the staff member, the percentage of availabilities that are met, and the miles from the client. You also see how many of the attributes are met by this particular staff member. If you want to expand the attributes, you simply click on this button right up here, and you'll be able to see all of the attributes entered. Please note that any staff member who has a red asterisk in front of them would mean that this particular staff member has a attribute that's been entered into the record and it has not been set. So basically the client has an attribute entered, but we have not entered that attribute into the staff member's record. For example, Iggy Azalea, she has a red asterisk because we haven't put in which her primary language. So once I go into Iggy Azalea's record and I put in her primary language, then she will no longer have an asterisk in front of her name. I can scroll over to the right to see all of the results. Okay. Now, if I wanted to compare the availability so that I can match the staff member, I'm going to select the staff members I wish to view. So I'm going to click on these 3 staff members, and down here at the bottom, I have the option to compare availability. So I'm going to click on compare availability. Now what we're going to see is we're going to see the staff members' availability compared to the client's availability. Right up here, we're going to see 1 week at a time. So here's this week. Up here, we see the time of day. The very first box that we see that is outlined in blue is going to be your client. So Tom, our client, is available at this time. The bar represents the time that Tom is available. Below that, we see the list of the staff members that I selected to compare the availability. These 3 staff members are available at this given time. So the difference between the clients are going to be outlined in blue. The staff members are going to have their availability solid blue. So from this window, I can see, from this window, I can see that I can match Tom up with any of these 3 staff members on Mondays. On Tuesday, I only have Jose Andres and Iggy Azalea who are available, as well as Carol Brady, who's available later. On this day, we can see that Tom, our client, is not available from 12 to 1 p.m. So this is how we're going to be using the Genie to match our clients and staff. Right down here, to view a different week, you simply expand on the week that you wish to see, and you're going to get those results. To go back to our results, we're going to click on the back button. It brings us back over here, and you have the ability to export your results to an Excel document. So I'm going to click on export. The system is going to create an Excel document that you can save onto your computer to save the records. And the reason why we have this is in the event that you want your schedulers to collaborate with your BCBAs. So maybe your schedulers generate the list of the people who are available, send it off to the BCBAs. The BCBAs can then either select from a list or approve the people that your schedulers have selected. Well, this concludes how to utilize the Scheduling Genie feature. Elsie is going to help us to answer your questions, and she will also be showing us how to use the Scheduling Matrix.
Thank you, Sandra. Hello, everyone. My name is Elsie Rodriguez. I am also an implementation specialist here at Code Metro. Sandra and I train new onboarding customers and assist in the implementation process, as well as train existing customers. I have actually been with Code Metro for 8 years now. It's been really exciting seeing how much Code Metro has grown since I started. To give you an idea, when I started, there were only 8 staff members, including myself. Today, we have over 50 staff. I've also had the privilege to have been able to grow professionally within the company and learn so much about the industry. But enough about me. Let's go ahead and get your questions answered. So if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and go into the chat of the Zoom meeting and type in your questions, and we'll do our best to answer all your questions. Okay. So one of the questions here is, can you export a spreadsheet for all staff availability instead of comparing for the client? So for that, we actually do have a Flex report in NPA called staff availability. And let me see if I can. So the staff availability, you're going to actually find it in the Flex report section. It would be under the staff category of the Flex report. So if you need kind of further assistance in reviewing further that report, feel free to schedule a call with us and we'll let you know how to reach out to us at the end. So a question here, you were trying to compare availability and it comes up as an unexpected error. That might be something we'll need to kind of troubleshoot a little bit more with you, maybe connect computers. So I'm going to let everyone know at the end how you can contact us and how you can schedule a call with Sandra or myself. So with the attributes, there was another question here about editing the attributes for a group, or do you have to go into each child and staff individually? Well, when it comes to just the attributes in general, you're going to go, I'm going to cancel out of here, you're going to go into the Scheduling Genie attributes. Now, so the Scheduling Genie attributes will represent your master list of all the attributes that you want to track. Now, once you modify it here, any new attributes that you're adding, you will need to go into those specific staff members or clients individually and turn on those attributes. So this is another great question here. Does the staff availability include or incorporate sessions that are already scheduled for? And it does. So let's go back here, and I'm going to kind of point that out to you. I'm going to go back here to the client we were working with. I'm going to open up the Scheduling Genie one more time. Going to come in here. So everything's already set. We're going to go ahead and do the search and then compare availabilities. And I'm going to show you here that the system does take in consideration sessions that they've already have scheduled. And you're going to see that. So just from here, I'm going to go ahead and compare these folks, compare their availability. Okay, just give us here one moment. Okay, but what it will do is it is going to show you. So for example, if you have a staff that's available from, 8 to 5, but has sessions, in the middle of the day, it won't, that time frame, it won't show it in the blue shaded area. So it will show them as unavailable. So for example, if we take a look here on this Tuesday for Avia, we have it here that she's available from 8, and it was entered from 8 to 7, her availability. But if you take a look here from 12:30 to 4, the availability here doesn't show as available. And that simply means because there's already sessions in there. So it will account for any blue and green sessions as well as gray sessions in their schedules. So there was another question here, great question. Can credentials be included in the attributes? So it is actually for credentials, it is best not to use them as attributes because we already kind of store that information in the system. So for example, in your funding source, you should be going in your funding source and determining what the minimum credential is in order to provide that particular service. Then on the staff record, you're entering in the credentials that they currently have. So that way, when we run the matrix, it's already going to do that in the back end. So it's only going to show you those staff members that meet the credential requirements based on those funding source specifications. And that one. Okay, so another question here is about availabilities, if you have to enter availabilities. Now, with the Scheduling Genie, you don't necessarily need to use attributes if you don't need to run the Genie, but the availabilities is absolutely a requirement. So in order to successfully run the Genie, the availability are required. So you won't be able to run it without it. And if I come here and go back, you'll notice that in the results, these particular staff members here that doesn't show a checkbox in front of their name, the reason why we can't select between these staff members is because their availability here is not set up. So it will not let us run it without those availabilities. So those are going to be very important to enter. Okay. Yeah. All right, thank you. It looks like those are most of the questions that we have here. If we did miss any questions, we do apologize, but I'll let you know how you can reach out to us and schedule a follow-up call and answer any other follow-up questions you have. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and move forward and showing you the scheduling matrix. So let's cancel here. So then what is a scheduling matrix? The scheduling matrix feature is useful to see scheduled appointments for several staff members or clients for a specific date range at one time. You can compare availabilities as well as review payroll hours and also contract fulfillment information. The scheduling matrix can be accessed through the full version of NPA Works as well as NPA Go. However, for NPA Go, please note that this feature is to be used on tablets in the horizontal position, and it is not designed for tablets in the vertical position or smartphones. So let's go ahead and show you how to access the scheduling matrix. So the scheduling matrix, we're going to come up here from the main screen and go into the scheduling matrix button. When you click on the scheduling matrix button, it will open the matrix filters in your default web browser. So as mentioned earlier, you can also access the matrix within NPA Go by simply going into the menu options, and you'll find an option there for the scheduling matrix. Now with the matrix, we're going to start here with the filters. The first section that we have here is where you can specify whether you want to run the matrix for staff or you want to run the matrix for clients. So for now, we'll go ahead and select staff. Next, we have here a filter for office. When you click on this down arrow, if you have multiple offices, you'll see the list of your offices where you'll be able to come in here in your list and check the office you want to run the matrix for. Next, we have a region filter. Now, this region is coming from the county field of the address information. So let's take a look at that real quick. If I open up a client record, the region is coming from their main contact, so their contact that is marked as a resides with client, and what is specified in this county field. For staff, that is coming from their main home address and then whatever is specified here in the county field. So if this is something that it's useful for your organization, you can definitely use the county to specify region. So when we click on this drop-down, you're going to see all of the different regions that have been entered in that particular field. So for example, if I only wanted to view staff members who are in the San Fernando Valley, then I can come in here and only check that particular region so that it only pulls those particular staff members. I can select multiple if needed, or I can keep them all as deselected. As you can see up here on the top, we have a select all button and a deselected. By keeping them all deselected simply means that it's going to include all of the regions. Next, we have the date range, where you can specify the date range that you need to run the matrix for. We have a to date button right here next to the date, where by clicking on that, it just brings you to today's date only. So you have the option of running this for one day, for a couple of days, a week, couple of weeks, even a month. To modify the date, simply come into the calendar button, and which brings us a little mini calendars below where we can specify the start and the end date that we want to run the matrix for. Then we'll see those dates updated here. Next, we have a filter here for staff. When we click on the staff list, it's going to show us a list of all your staff members. From here, you have the ability to only select those particular staff members that you want to run the matrix for. You can select multiple, or as always here, you can also just keep them all as deselected so it can run it for all staff. We also have a client filter where it works the same. So if I was running this matrix for the clients only, I can also specify which particular clients I want to run the matrix for. And even further, I also have a filter for services where I can specify this particular services that I'm looking. For example, if I wanted to run this matrix to only show me, let's say, supervision appointments, this drop-down is going to show me a list of all my services. So I can come in here and only select my supervision services so that it only pulls those appointments. But again, I can keep them all as deselected, and it will include all my services. Now on the top here, top right corner, we do have a reset button. The reset button will reset your filters and allow you to reselect the filters. And then we have the run button to run the matrix. So now that we've selected our filters, I'm going to go ahead and click the run button to view our matrix. And now let's talk about what we see here in the matrix. On the top, it's simply going to show us that we are looking at staff results. It's going to display the date range that we selected. Then we're going to see here the dates. Now by default, the first date that it's showing us will be expanded. And if we scroll down, you'll see the additional days, but these will be collapsed. To expand these days, we're simply going to click on the plus sign right in front of the date to expand those particular days. Next to the date, it's going to show us how many staff members it's showing us, and then you're going to see the list of all the staff members. Next to the staff member's name, we're going to see some payroll information. So for example here, Gemma, it's showing us that she has 11.5 hours scheduled out of 25 hours for this particular week that we're viewing. If I hover over that time, it's going to show us a little bit more details. The first one is the desired hours. Now this desired hours is coming from the staff record. So let's take a quick look at that. When I open a staff record under the General tab, there is a field here in the middle called hours per week. This is where you can indicate how many hours the staff is indicated to is working on a given week. Once you specify that information, then it will show us here as the desired hours. The next field that we see is the scheduled payroll hours. For Gemma, showing that currently for this week, she has 11.5 hours scheduled. Then below that, we have the completed hours. The completed hours is a combination of rendered hours plus all the non-service blue sessions. So far for this week, she's completed 4.5 hours. And lastly, we see any overtime hours. So if Gemma was going into overtime, we'll see that number here. But another thing that you'll see as far as overtime is you're going to see that overtime stand out. So let's take a look here at Jessica Buell. You'll see that it shows 16.5 hours out of 40, and next to that, in bold red writing, you're going to see OT. So that's going to be your alert that this particular staff member is going into overtime. So if I hover over the payroll hours, it will show us here that she is going into overtime by 1.5 hours. Now that 1.5 hours could be any time during the week, so it doesn't specify where the hours, which specific appointment is going into overtime, but at least it alerts you here that she's going into overtime. So that way it allows you to monitor your staff hours, and then from there, move appointments around if needed so that your staff does not go into any overtime. So next to that here, now we're going to see our appointments, all the appointments scheduled. So from down here, from this little bar, I can scroll over to see more of the day's appointments. You're going to notice here that we're going to see blue shaded area. So it will also show us the availability of what's been entered for your staff and clients if we're reviewing a client matrix. So the blue shaded area represents all of the availabilities. Now, right now, the appointments, we see them, all the appointment boxes are currently outlined. In the outline for any service appointment, it will show us the client's name. For any blue or gray appointments, it's simply going to show us what was entered in their subject line. If we hover over any appointment, we can see more detail. So for example, let's go ahead and hover over this blue session here for Gemma. Once I hover over it, it's going to show us the start time plus the end time, and then the subject line of this session. We'll get similar information for any gray appointments. And for any service appointments here, when we hover over it, we're going to see the start and end time, again with the client's name, and as well as the location of where the service has taken place. In addition to the right of that, we're going to see the contract fulfillment ticker. So let's review this information. First, it shows us the authorized frequency. Currently, it's showing us here as weekly. So this is just simply indicating that the contract for this client was entered in with a weekly frequency. Below that, we're going to see the appointment service time. As a reminder, the service time is reflected as the billable time. So this appointment here, the service time is 3 hours. Below that, we're going to see the authorization hours, which shows as 20 hours. So this contract was entered in as 20 hours per week. Below that, we have the projected hours, which is currently showing as 15 hours. So let's talk a little bit more about what these projected hours are. I'm going to come back here real quick to a client record. Now, in the client record, under the Services tab, where we enter in the authorized minutes, next to that, you'll see the projected minutes field. Now, this projected minutes can be entered based on the client's availability of what you're, so that's your projected, what you're projected to provide. So for example, here, Sean, we've entered that based on his availability, we're projected to provide 15 hours. So he's authorized 20 hours a week, but he's only available 15 of those hours. This projection hours allows us to run contract fulfillment reports based on the projected time versus their authorized time to get more accurate data. Next, we're going to see the scheduled hours. The scheduled hours for this week shows us 17 hours. So we scheduled 17 out of those 20 that he is authorized. Next, we're going to see the rendered hours. Currently showing at 0, so it's still the beginning of the week. We haven't gotten to rendered any sessions just yet. Then next, we have the remaining authorized hours based on the regular authorization. So out of the 20 hours, there's still 3 hours left that I can schedule to fulfill the 20 hours. Then for the remaining projected hours, it's showing as -2. So this is now comparing based on the projected hours. It's showing -2 because we projected to provide 15 hours, but we've actually exceeded that by 2 hours, so we're just showing as -2. So you'll be able to see that information here for all clients. Now, for any client that was entered in as a total frequency, on the authorized frequency, you're going to see it here as null. It just means that it was entered in as a total frequency contract. Now, 2 new colors that you're going to see here in the matrix. So everything else just kind of goes general as our regular color legend in the schedules. But the 2 new colors that we're going to see is going to be a light purple and a dark purple. Let's take a look at the light purple first. A light purple color simply means that the staff or client has overlapping appointments. If we take a look here at Jessica for this Monday at 1 to 3, it's showing here, it says 2 overlap appointments. So when you hover over that, it will show you those 2 overlapping appointments. The first appointment we see here, as you can see, this person icon is showing as the color black, which simply indicates that this is a canceled appointment. Then the appointment that's overlapping with that one is a blue appointment. So it's just showing us here that she did some alternative work in replacement of that cancellation. Now, if we take a look here, let's go back to Wednesday for Victoria. Now here it's showing us a darker shaded purple or a darker color purple, and it's in this case it's representing any group session. So for any of your social skills group, these will be indicated in this particular color. Now here in this case it's showing us 2 clients. So there's 2, she's providing services for 2 kiddos. So these are 2 service appointments, and it will show us the name of the client and along with the service location. If I click on any of these appointments, you will get the contract fulfillment ticker right next to that for you to view that information. Now, one thing that we can do here in the matrix is we have the option to validate appointments. So we have this validate button in the bottom of the screen. Now, what this means to validate, it simply will allow you to filter out certain appointments. So for example, let's go ahead and validate. Now, before I do want to explain one thing. When you validate appointments, the system will only validate the appointments you have expanded. Currently, we have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday expanded, but Thursday and Friday are not. So when I validate, it's only going to validate those 3 days and not Thursday and Friday. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to click on the validate button. Now the system is validated my appointments, and the way you'll know once it's validated is because now you'll see that those appointments are now shaded in versus outlined. So what now the system will allow you to do is if you take a look at that next field where it says appointment types, we're now going to see a list of all the different type of appointments that we see in the matrix. From here, you'll have the option to filter out certain appointments you don't want to see. For example, I can come in here to the canceled appointments and uncheck it, and now you'll see that any canceled appointments get removed. I can do the same, let's say, for this no pay, no service, which are my gray appointments. Uncheck that, and it removes those appointments for me to better view or better view the schedule. Now let's talk about a couple of examples or reasons that we can use the matrix for. One of the things that we can use the matrix for is for you to find the best possible time to schedule a clinical meeting. So for example, I can run the scheduling matrix for a particular clinical team and only select those individuals to view their schedules and see where I can best fit that clinical team meeting. Being able to view all the appointments can assist you in determining which appointments can be moved around or canceled, if needed in order to fit that clinical team meeting. So for example, if I'm looking in here to schedule that clinical meeting with these individuals, I can see that on Wednesday from, let's say, maybe 11 to about 1:30, some don't have appointments, and then here the others are strictly just blue appointments. So maybe from here, these will be the appointments that I'll be able to easily move around without affecting any client services. What you're also going to notice, just for any individual, if someone here does not have any appointments, you'll still see their name listed here, but you won't see any actual scheduled appointments. I can also use the matrix to schedule any staff trainings, any staff meetings by using the same concept. So if it's something that I need to include all staff, I can run this for all staff, and then from there to be able to view everyone and see where I can best fit that meeting or that training. Another example that this matrix can be useful for, it can be useful for your supervisors. So for example, like if your supervisors, it can assist them in finding alternative work when cancellations occur and attributes don't really matter. So for example, if a supervisor's afternoon sessions get canceled and now they have the afternoon free, he or she can run the scheduling matrix for, let's just say, maybe their own clients only, to see where else they can go in replacement of that cancellation. So they'll be able to see where they can go, maybe do some supervision, or see where else they can best fit their time. In addition, the matrix can be used if you don't need to use attributes to use the Genie. So for example, you can also run the matrix to find any subs. And so I can run the matrix for all your staff. And if you're looking, so for example, I'm going to run it for, let's say, today, and I need someone in the afternoon. So we're going to really just go into the matrix and only look for that time frame to see who in that specific day and that time can fill in that appointment. So again, it's just whenever you don't need to use any of the attributes like the Genie, the matrix can be a useful tool for these type of situations. Now on the top right corner, we do have this refresh icon. So if you're updating schedules at the same time you're viewing the matrix, or someone else is updating schedules, you can easily come in here and click that refresh button, and it's just going to refresh the schedule and give you the latest changes or the latest updates. The filter icon will simply bring you back to the filters for you to rerun the matrix. And this question mark here is just going to give you here a little description of how to run the matrix. And further here, where I see the dates, let's say if I wanted to continue to view the matrix for these particular individuals, what I can do is I can simply click in this calendar and then select a different date range. So let's say I viewed this week, and now I want to view next week. So we can simply come in here and select the new dates, click apply, then the new dates will update, and then it will reload the matrix with those specific dates. Then coming back here is the back button on the top left, simply will also bring you back to the filters of the matrix. So this concludes on how to utilize the scheduling matrix feature. The goal of the matrix is to view multiple schedules at once. This feature allows for your supervisors to view full schedules of their clients they work with. You can utilize the matrix to see where you can best fit a meeting, a training, and even sub. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass this back over to Sandra, who is going to now answer all your questions regarding the scheduling matrix.
Thank you, Elsie. All right, so are there any questions regarding the scheduling matrix? Remember that if you have a question, you can type it into the chat section of the Zoom meeting. So we have a question. So they want to know the exact time of the appointment. So at this time, you can hover over the appointment. Once you hover over the appointment, you'll be able to see the start time and the end time of the appointment.
Yeah, but the export matrix results.
Yeah, at this time, we don't have a way to export information from the matrix. However, if you are looking for availabilities, we do have reports that you can generate to view everyone's, or to, print out everyone's availabilities.
Oh, scroll it to the more.
So at this time, the matrix does not approve sessions. It's just a way to view the appointments that are already in the system. Any more questions? All right, if there are no other questions, let me tell you about some of the new features that we have coming up. So we are working on some exciting new features. We're working on a parent portal. The parent portal will allow guardians to access their own child's schedule. Guardians will now have the option to electronically sign off on their appointments. So if one of your therapists forgets to get a signature, they will now be able, we can now call the parents, have them log into the parent portal and sign off on the appointments. Now, one of the great things about this parent portal is that you get to decide what information the parents view. You get to decide how far in advance they'll be able to view their schedules. You get to decide if they can see service appointments, non-service appointments. You'll be in control of that. So this feature is going to be coming out probably late summer or early fall, but we will definitely email you before you get upgraded. All right, so now that we're done, Elsie is going to tell you how you can contact us for additional support. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Sandra. A couple of things I want to point out to everyone and let everyone know is we do have a knowledge base and we have a YouTube channel with training videos. Now, the knowledge base, you can access the knowledge base 3 different ways. So we can do it from your main login page, from the help icon in NPA Works, or going directly to that website. So let's take a look at those real quick. Now, for any PC user, you'll log in here from the main screen. You're going to see our knowledge base option down here in the bottom right corner. All you'll need to do is simply click Learn More, and it'll bring you here to our knowledge base. When you're logged in NPA Works, by clicking on the help icon on the top right corner here as well, that will also bring you to the knowledge base. And or going directly to the website, which is npaworks.com/knowledgebase. In here, you'll have a search bar where you'll be able to type in what you're looking for. Then we have it all here categorized in subjects, and you'll see all the articles. Now, some of these articles will contain a how-to video. For example, if I click on render a service appointment, it will then open up that particular one, and you'll see the video listed here first, followed by the written instructions. So definitely useful tip to have here for your staff. Now, we are currently working on developing this a little bit more. So Sandra and I will be working on trying to get this as updated with more articles here for you to view. So we can also, we also have a YouTube channel. And you can get to our YouTube channel by going to www.youtube.com/NPAworks. So when you go into this screen, into this link, it will bring you here to our channel where you're going to see all our how-to videos. Now, some of the new recently added videos here are NPA Go Supervisor Training, as well as a NPA Go Therapist Training video. So this is also a good resource tool for you to have and, you know, share with your staff to learn more about NPA work. I also want to share with you how you can contact us. So now, if you have, one thing that I want to mention is we will send everyone a link to today's video webinar or recorded webinar. Again, if we missed any of your questions, we do apologize, but you can definitely contact us. So for any general support inquiries or any of the other questions, you can contact the support department directly, either via email at support@codemetro.com or calling our general number and dialing extension 302. So any of your support needs, always please contact our support department. And then if you have any login issues, that would be our IT department, and you can call them directly to our main number and dialing extension 309. Now, for any training or call requests, you can use these two links you see here to access my calendar or Sandra's calendar. Now, this is our calendar link, and what it will do is it'll show you our availability and allow you to schedule any trainings or any call at your convenience. So if anyone has any follow-up calls or trainings, please use our contact info and give us a call, and we'll be happy to speak to you after. And for now, I would like to thank everyone for joining our webinar. We're going to look forward to seeing all your webinar suggestions. And for now, we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.